Through intentional, deliberate, strategic prayer, you grab hold of Jesus and of everything He's already done on your behalf. It's how you tap into the power of heaven and watch it reverberate in your experiences. It's a key part of your offensive weaponry against the cunning foe who prowls around and watches for your weaknesses, your vulnerable places, for any opportunity to destroy you. In prayer, you gain your strength, the power to guard yourself with armor that extinguishes every weapon your enemy wields. This episode of Pages Highlights, I'll be sharing insights I got from reading Priscilla Shirer's Fervent, a woman's battle plan for serious, specific, and strategic prayer. You're welcome to my channel, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Just click on the button down here. It's free. Fervent was published in 2015 and got an award for the 2016 Book of the Year. The theme of the book is divided into 10 strategies, with each focusing on specific themes. The book contains 183 pages and includes detachable note cards like this. You can actually just detach it. Detachable note cards. The note cards for writing down specific prayers was very engaging and practical, as readers are actually led to pray while reading the book, but not in form of just giving prayer points. I mean, you'll just see the need to pause and just say some prayers while reading this. Let me just put it this way, that the eyes of your understanding would actually be enlightened from reading this book. I mean, I read this book in November 2019. I read at a point in my life when I was really seeking clarity on a lot of issues, and now that I look back at some of the things I wrote on my note cards, I can just actually see that like 80% of the prayers I made have actually been answered. So basically, reading this book will just lead you to pray, and I love the fact that there are Bible references all through the book that are able to drive the points home. I really want to say this, that it is very important for us to learn to document our prayers. I mean, because looking back at all of this, I can just see how faithful God has been. What attracted me to this book, Fervent, was actually the cover of the book. I mean, it's a woman's battle plan for serious, specific, and strategic prayers. And like I said earlier, I was at a point when I really needed clarity on a lot of issues, and Fervent really helped me pray the will of God, like, because you're actually praying according to the word of God. Life is very spiritual, and Fervent helped me understand the need to actually be strategic in my prayer. I mean, in Romans 12 verse 11, we're admonished to be faithful in our prayers. Fervent actually helps us realize that we cannot afford otherwise. Like, we cannot afford to keep playing with prayer, except we do not want to achieve our destinies and experience all that God has in store for us. The chapters in Fervent are arrayed in form of strategies, and today I'll be sharing highlights I got, which are more like insights I got from reading this very power-packed book. So yes, strategy 1 talks about your passion. Imagine a person that is without passion. Like, imagine someone going to work every day, but you're not passionate about the work you do. I mean, there is no driving force. Passion is actually what would keep you going even when you're faced with mundane tasks. So in this strategy, the author actually explains the need for us to be passionate in prayer, basically because to be fervent in prayer is actually to be passionate in prayer. Fervent prayer is actually fueled by passion and by our faith, and this tenacity, the fire in us to want to pray right and pray through. Passion is the fuel in the engine of our purpose. What would keep you on the platform of fulfilling your purpose is actually the passion you have, such that when the days feels bad, when you feel low and all of that, your passion is actually what will keep you going. Even when you're faced with tasks that are boring, if you're passionate about it, you'll just keep going. You will not be dissuaded, or you won't feel like stopping. So passion is what would keep us moving in the direction of our best interest. This is why the enemy, by all means, will seek to actually destroy our passion, because he knows that when he can take your passion away from you, then he can steal your dream, he can steal your goal, he can steal your desires. Now, strategy 2 talks about being focused And it helps us to see why fervent prayer is actually focused prayer. I mean, focus actually minimizes distraction and helps us not overlook important facts. Imagine being on a race, like you're actually going to achieve, going to win a goal, and you're on this race, and then someone just tries to take you away from the track. If you're focused on your goal, on the race ahead of you, you won't be easily distracted. So fervent prayer actually helps us to be focused in our prayer and not to compromise at scenarios that can make us to simply compromise. It helps us see the reason why our prayers need to be focused, specific, strategic, and personal. 33 deals with our identity, and one of the weapons the enemy would try to attack your prayer life is to steal your identity from you. I mean, if he can get you feeling like you're not worth it, your dream is not worth it, and if he can get you to keep doubting the promises of God for your life, he would actually get you away from your focus and away from your passion. Prayer will help you see the resources that are available to you to make you victorious. I mean, the enemy wants you to keep living in a state of defeat with your defenses down, being filled with insecurities. But through prayer, you become more aware of the resources that God has in store for you. You become aware of the protection that is available to you. Strategy 4 actually helps us to see the need why prayer is the force that keeps family in unity, and prayer is the key instrument in raising a godly home. And for a single woman, it helps you see why you should actually pray for your spouse even never having met him. You know, it helps you pray, see the need why you need to pray for some specific things you want to see materialized in the life of your spouse. Let me just say this, that if you follow the strategies in this and you're a single woman praying to God for your spouse, and you're in a relationship that is not in alignment with the will and purposes of God for your life, don't be surprised if God answers the prayer by your relationship coming to an end, because it's not in alignment with the will and purpose for God. But it will all be for the best if it's not in alignment with the will and purpose of God for your life. That may be the answer to your prayer. That might be hurtful and painful, but in the end, it's actually going to be worth it. You've prayed, and then God will bring into alignment his own will and purpose for your life, not just your will. And I think this book actually goes for men too, and that's why I feel like it should have just been fervent battle plan for serious, specific, and strategic prayer, because men would just see a woman's battle plan for serious, specific, and strategic prayer and feel like it's just a book for women. But I feel like everyone should be serious, specific, and strategic in their prayer. But I mean, the author was probably led right to writing the book for women, because yes, he actually addresses a lot of issues to women. Strategy 5 helps us see how the enemy would actually try to steal our victory by making us feel guilty about our past, in a bid to keep us alienated from God. Fervent prayer will help us rise above that and help us see who we actually are in Christ. Strategy 6 talks about fear. Fear is one of Satan's weapons to fight God's people. It is one of Satan's weapons to keep us from actually moving ahead with what God has planned and purposed for our life. Fear would keep us from launching out into our callings. Imagine sitting back and considering everything that could possibly go wrong when you should be launching out with what God has called you to be. Fervent helps us see that prayer is actually what makes the difference, because it helps us, prayer actually helps us to be completely honest with God about our feelings of fear. Prayer helps us to also feel really aware of the presence of God. Remember in the Bible when Gideon was afraid and he went into hiding, but God sent his angel to remind him, like, what are you doing here? Get up, arise, you're Gideon, you're a mighty man of valor. God is with you. So prayer reminds us that God is with us, that God would not leave us, God would not forsake us, and with God by our side, you are actually a mighty woman of valor. You are a mighty warrior. The 7 is focused on your purity and how prayer can help you stay strong in places where you are most likely to fall, because the enemy will try to tempt us towards certain sins, convincing us that we can tolerate them without risking consequences. But sin has consequences. It always has and always will. If we keep our minds on the fact that sin has consequences and disobedience to God is capable of breaking our fellowship with God, sin creates separation between us and God, and it is the reason why the enemy would try to push sin your way, so you would have a broken communication and fellowship with God. Strategy 8 talks about pressure, and the most interesting highlight for me is here is that when our lives are packed to the brim with things that squeeze God into the periphery, then it's a sign that we have replaced our devotion to God with a love for something else. Sometimes these things that pressure us so much are actually aimed at in our devotion to God. Strategy 9 talks about our hearts, and we're reminded that in the place of prayer, we can actually surrender our hearts to God, no matter how we may feel hurt and unforgiving towards whoever must have caused that hurt. We can release forgiveness in the place of prayer. Remember, if you don't forgive others for their trespasses, God will not also forgive you for your own trespasses. And also, another important highlight for me here is that forgiveness loosens us from the shackles where the enemy wants us to be. Because when we forgive, we set not just the person free, but we actually set ourselves free. Now, strategy 10 talks about our relationships and how it's important for us to maintain unity of purpose, especially when we have godly relationships with ungodly friends. How it's very important, because one thing the enemy will try to do is to steal these godly friendships and relationships from us, because he knows that when we have godly people in our lives, they can act as checks and also pray with us.